solicitor would go over the rules of public comment.
Sure. Before that, I just want to make an announcement that we had an exec session on June 10th at 10:30 to talk about litigation matters. We also had a conference to go over information regarding the bids which are on the agenda, so that the board could get information from the consultants. For the public comments, you can make public comments if you are a resident of the township or if you are a taxpayer. Please raise your hand until you are recognized. You have 3 minutes to make your comments. Once you have 15 seconds remaining, I will ask you to complete your comments. For your comments, please come up to the mic, take a seat, and state your name and address. If you're making comments on an agenda action item, these are the items on the agenda. Please state the agenda item. Turn on the mic, face the board, and make your comments. Please understand this is not a debate session, and this is not a place for abusive language or profanity for comments. As a reminder, as part of the rules, the commissioners may ask questions or for clarifications during or after your comments. We ask the audience to refrain from crying out or being disruptive. We ask you to leave if you refuse to follow the stated conduct or disrupt the meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. At this time, are there any comments on the agenda items? Just in the back.
Jim Kapinski, 1958 Yarnell Road. I'd like to make a comment on agenda item 9A. Section 1802 of the First Class Township Code for Pennsylvania is titled Regulations of Contract. As part of the township's consideration of awarding contracts for the new municipal complex, please read section 1802, which states, shall be open to public inspection and copying. It also states, any contracts executed in violation of the provisions of 1802 shall be void. At the April 25th Board of Commissioner meeting, I was told I have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. However, answers regarding if the township can use Gilbertsville Road for the proposed municipal complex is covered in Judge Salt's opinion of the smaller lawsuit dated June 13th of this year. There is no doubt that Gilbertsville Road was purchased with open space funds and falls under the Open Space Land Act. I'm man enough to admit that I was wrong when I thought there were procedures where the township could undertake in order to use Gilbertsville Road for the municipal complex. I was not aware of an amendment which excluded local governments from these procedures. I admit I was wrong. There are several statements in Judge Saltz's order that contradicts my assumptions that there are procedures. On page 11 of his order, he states, if a municipality could acquire land by using this open space tax revenue, but then decides to develop the land for another purpose, it would betray the bargain that the elected representatives made with the public. On page 25 of his orders, he states, the open space status is not terminable at will. The township cannot terminate its protected status a year later or even a day later. Such a result would be plainly contrary to the intent of the voters in authorizing the tax, and indeed to the intent of the act itself. Finally, on page 26, quote, regardless of the reasons, the facts remain that nothing in the act authorizes the commissioners to terminate the restriction imposed on a property acquired in fee simple with revenues from the open space tax approved by the voters. You just made a mistake. You bought this Gilbertsville property with open space funds when you had your public hearing. In my opinion, that was a major mistake. You should have just used the general fund. You may want to consider renovating the existing buildings that the township already owns. Thank
15
you.
seconds.
I'm done.
Others, comments?
Elwood Taylor, 77 Snyder Road, and I think that's all the agenda was 8B. The Board of Commissioners came to office promising to clean up purported financial mismanagement. You said that residents were burdened with too much township debt, so you promised to pay off all the township's debts using proceeds from the sale of the township's sewer system to a profit-seeking private corporation. But now, even though the township has no more sewer debt, sewer customers have had their fees raised for the first time in over 10 years. You also paid off all the debt used to purchase township open space, but taxpayers are still paying the tax that was meant to service that debt. As recently as November of last year, the president of the board claimed that the township has no debt, but it looks like the township taxpayers are still paying for the debt that you said was paid off. And now tonight, we see that one of the agenda items is to transfer open space funds to the general fund for debt repayment. There might be a perfectly reasonable explanation for this inconsistency, but to me, it seemed as though the township debt has not been paid off, but rather shifted to artificially prop up the general fund, or maybe to conserve the sewer sale proceeds for building a new municipal complex. We have even seen township budget documents charging interest on the open space funds that are being transferred to the general fund. No different than when we were servicing the bonds when you said they'd been paid off. When a homeowner is finally able to burn the mortgage, they're thrilled. Their debt has been paid off, and they can celebrate, knowing that their paycheck will be much larger going forward. But paying off township debt has not lessened the taxpayer's burden, but instead, sewer fees have risen. Residents have seen the first property tax increase in a decade. You denied me access to last year's financial statements with the excuse that they had not yet been audited, even though they are the basis for the expenditures you've been making since January, and that you're even now considering at this meeting. Perhaps they will shed light on the questions I've raised tonight.
What interest is being charged?
I was gonna ask that same question. What interest is being charged at?
Which bond you talking about?
Again, with the little information I'm able to glean from the papers I'm able to get.
Glean, you're making a charge, you're saying the general fund charged the open space fund interest?
No.
I'm
It never
saying,
happened, you know that, Elwood.
okay, so you don't want to hear my answer, so I'll move on from there.
You don't have one. Go ahead, take your seat. Any other folks? Anybody else?
Yeah. Tyrone Robinson, 1488 Heather Place. My comments are the board was out of order. You guys knew the majority of the residents here in this township was against building on open space, and yet and still, you guys kept pushing the envelope. Not only that, people that was against building on open space, there's residents here in our community that went around with white ribbons tying them on mailboxes and trees and people's yards. You guys ride around, you've seen the number of people that was against opening during this whole procedure. They were against it. And yet and still you guys continue to push the envelope. And you guys are out of order. You guys work for the residents here. We don't work for you. And that was not done properly, Tracy. And you're the man in charge.
No.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Commissioners. First is vacant, my name is Tina McIntyre, I live at 618 Mock Road in Upper Pottsgrove. And I had a comment with regard to agenda item 8A, with regard to the new municipal complex at the Gilbertsville Road property. So my concern is, much as what's been echoed previously, that it was initially purchased with open space sellers, and I'm just fearful that we might end up in a difficult and challenging situation. I also recognize that a new municipal building is truly needed faster than slower, and it's been taking a very long time. The first responders give us excellence, and we deserve to return that excellence to them. So my thought is, you had previously talked about that there were alternate plans that were devised, and you've done your due diligence creating alternate plans. Would it make sense to perhaps revert, now that we have the planning commission in effect, to lean on their expertise, collaborate with them, discuss the additional plans that are out there that might be able to accomplish all the things. In other words, potentially renovating, potentially looking at different properties, whatever your alternate plans entailed, to kind of collaborate and gain further understanding, complete the same project with the least risk involved. And that was my comment. Thank you for your service.
Others? See no other comments, we'll move on with the agenda.